What's up, everyone? Today is October 10th, 2022. In this video, we're going to talk about an immense synchronicity, or numeric ritual, if you will, between two big sporting events from this past weekend. First off, on Sunday morning, the Green Bay Packers, one of the NFL's most popular franchises, made its first trip overseas to London, becoming the last NFL team to finally play a game across the pond. In that game, they went up against the New York Giants, and this was a big game for London because it was the first time ever in the history of, I think, 32 games prior or something, that both teams coming into the game had a winning record. So this was an exciting game for English NFL fans. And it's no coincidence that Aaron Rodgers was the man for this game. Aaron Rodgers' middle name is Charles. Now, back in January of 2021, in a video that I'm going to link down below in the description, also linked in this post, I've been talking about the immense connections that Aaron Rodgers has to Prince Charles, who is now King Charles. And certainly it's no coincidence that Aaron made the trip over to England just shortly after the passing of the Queen, which led into the crowning of a new king. Another major sporting event this weekend was WWE Extreme Rules, and some people may not call it a sport, but many of those people would be surprised to see that it is scripted the same way as quote-unquote real sports through this numeric code of Gematria. At the Extreme Rules event, WWE welcomed back Bray Wyatt, a superstar who was very surprisingly released in July of last year. In the lead up to Bray Wyatt's return, there was a lot of videos and a lot of clues about a white rabbit. And intriguingly, the white rabbit is a theme that has been consistent with Aaron Rodgers. Back in December, I did this super stream talking about how quarterback Aaron Rodgers is connected to the Matrix. This man dressed up as Keanu Reeves for Halloween. He broke Brett Favre's record 3 days after the Matrix came out. And then 3 days later, we had the death of John Madden. This was all connected, and this video is now linked in the description below. So we're going to talk about how these events are related through the numerology of the planet Saturn. And we'll dive into this deep as we go. Now, this isn't Bray Wyatt's first big comeback to WWE. He previously returned to the company in 2019 in July, and I actually did a post on that talking about how that was also by the numbers. But first, let's talk about the numerology of the football game between the Packers and Giants this past Sunday. Notice the score of 27-22. So 4 digits, 2722 in this game. And this speaks to the fact that this game was a tribute to the numerology of Aaron Rodgers, who on the date of the London game was 2,027 weeks and 2 days old. The exact same 4 digits that were in the score of the game with the Giants. Rodgers, of course, plays for the Packers, who scored 22 points. Rodgers threw for 222 yards. He also threw for 2 touchdowns. And this game was in the year 2020 in the city of London, England. And notice how London, England, using the standard reverse alphabetic order, has Gematria of 220. This number representing 22. And consider how the sport of American football, well, other football versions, of course, also with 22 men on the field at all times. In this language of Gematria, notice how National Football League also has this 220 value. This cipher, seen at the top part of your screen, the most simple, basic Gematria cipher, just numbering the alphabet 1 through 26. National Football League, 220, just like London, England. Now, in this game, Rodgers squared off against quarterback Daniel Jones. And I thought it was funny that quarterback Daniel Jones, his full name sums to 222, which again was the number of passing yards Rodgers had in this game. Also notice the 12 in reverse reduction. Rodgers wears number 12. So how was this a tribute to the new king? Charles III. Let's take a glance at Charles III's Gematria of his full name. And here we're going to crack open single reduction. This cipher is identical to full reduction, but the letter S is only reduced once. So normally the 19th letter, 1 plus 9 is 10. Using this cipher, Charles Philip Arthur George has Gematria of 153. Aaron Rodgers entered yesterday's game with 153 career wins, including playoffs. And after losing yesterday's game, he remained at 153 wins. Both the Giants and Packers entered this game with a 3-1 record. 3-1 stood out because measuring from the date that Charles III became the new king to the date of this game was 31 days. After the game, one team was 4-1, and then the other team was 3-2. And when you write out the word king, you get Gematria of 41, and then 32 with the K exception for the master number. A huge part of this riddle, however, is that it happened on October 9th. Packers and Giants. Sunday, October 9th. That's the same day in history that John Lennon was born. And of course, John Lennon of the Beatles, from England, where the Packers played their game this past weekend. And think about how John Lennon was always talking about love, how we all need to love more. And that'll help humanity get to where it needs to be. And this has been a theme that Aaron Rodgers has talked about a lot lately as well. It came out earlier this summer that Aaron Rodgers had drank ayahuasca with some friends down in South America, leading to some enlightening experiences, including one where he realized that self-love was the most important thing. So there's a little bit of a similar theme between Aaron Rodgers and John Lennon here. And what this is going to lead us into is how this is connected to the WWE, because Bray Wyatt, who just returned this weekend, used to be a member of the Wyatt family. And one of the members of the Wyatt family, seen on the right here, was Brodie Lee, otherwise known as Luke Harper, or his real name, John Huber. And Brodie Lee tragically passed away back in December of 2020. And again, his real name is Jonathan, or John as he was most commonly known, the same first name as John Lennon. And we're going to see how the death of Brodie Lee is synced up to this date as well. So first, notice how in the alphabetic order, the name Lennon sums to 74. And this is a highly significant number to this language of Gematria. In fact, the slide I just showed you explains how the words simple, English, and Gematria all sum to 74. In the alphabetic order, Lennon 74 like Jesus, Messiah, cross, gospel, killing, parables, 74. Notice how also in the alphabetic order, the king equals 74. And here we are just a month after Charles became the new king. The Packers' opponents in this game were the New York Giants. New York is the city in America that John Lennon lived in and was ultimately gunned down back in the year 1980. Also, New York is on the 74th meridian west, connecting to this number found in Lennon. But here's where things get a little bit weird. And usually it doesn't take long for things to get weird. But if you measure from the date that John Lennon was killed to the day that Aaron Rodgers was born, notice how it was 1,089 days later. Now, this is a number I talk about from time to time because 1,089 is 33 squared. This significant occult number, 33. But think about the digits in this number. These are the same 4 digits as 1980, which is the year that John Lennon was killed. In the language of Gematria, the name Aaron Rodgers sums to 189 in reverse. reflecting the same 3 digits found in this measurement. And in this game, he played against Daniel Jones. Notice how Daniel Jones also has Gematria of 189. Now, Rodgers and Lennon are connected numerically in another way. See how Aaron Rodgers was born on December 2nd, the date written 12/2 of the year 83. A lot like 122 and 83. Well, John Lennon was born on October 9th, which is a date that leaves 83 days in the year. 10 plus 9 plus 19 plus 84 is 122. Notice how National Football League equals 122. The word football equals 83. And on the first day of what would have been John Lennon's 83rd year since his birth, we get Aaron Rodgers traveling to England. So on this date of the game in England, notice how John Lennon would have been 82 years old. And that's a significant number for John Winston Lennon, whose birth name, John Winston Lennon, sums to 82. In fact, this game was also a span of 312 days after Aaron Rodgers' birthday. And notice how, using the reverse order, his full name, Aaron Charles Rodgers, sums to 312. Now, I want to talk about the end of this Packer game, where Aaron Rodgers tried to throw a Hail Mary pass. This is actually a huge part of this riddle, but before I do, let's talk about the numerology of Bray Wyatt, the man who made his return, long-awaited return to the WWE. So this happened at a WWE event called Extreme Rules, which is, it's no longer called a pay-per-view. It's now called a premium live event. But anyway, this event occurred on October 8th, just hours before Rodgers took the field in England. Notice how the name Bray Wyatt sums to 108 in reverse, just like the date that he made his return. But check out this 135. The name Aaron Rodgers sums to 135. Aaron Rodgers went up against Daniel Jones, quarterback Daniel Jones for New York, who was 135 days after his last birthday. Notice how Aaron Rodgers' nickname, A-Rod, equals 135. And a big reason this is so significant is because Charles III's full name sums to 135 in the reverse reduction method. I just realized now that the new king has the same gematria as John Lennon's full name. 279 ordinal. John Winston Ono Lennon. Charles Philip Arthur George. The same numbers. How appropriate. But I want to look at this 135 again. On the last play of the game, Rodgers was about to throw a Hail Mary. Now, this is hilarious because think about the Queen, how her full name was Elizabeth Alexandra Mary. The date she died, September 8th, is widely recognized by the Church of Rome to be the birthday of the Virgin Mary. London's new Prime Minister even named Mary. And for many years, Aaron Rodgers has been considered the best Hail Mary passer of all time, which is kind of silly because there's a tremendous amount of luck in any Hail Mary pass, no matter who's throwing the ball. And many outlets actually rank the #1 Hail Mary of all time from Aaron Rodgers to Richard Rodgers in 2015. And what are the odds that the #1 Hail Mary of all time is from Rodgers to another man named Rodgers who also spells his name with a D? Well, in this game between the Giants and Packers, the Giants had to give up a safety and then kick the ball off to Green Bay. And the man who caught that kickoff was named Amari Rodgers, who also spells his name with a D. This is another guy who's currently on the Packers. And Rodgers took the ball up to the 41-yard line. Notice how Rodgers equals 41. So does Green Bay 41. Well, after a penalty, Rodgers took the next snap and prepared to launch this Hail Mary pass. But before he could get the ball out of his hand, he got sacked by one of the Giants. See this? Boom, number 53. It's number 53. You can see his number right there. Sacks Rodgers and dislodges the ball. Okay? Number 53 of the New York Giants is this man. I believe it's Oshane Jimenez. If I'm pronouncing that correctly. I apologize if I'm not. But notice how the name Jimenez, this last name, sums to 93. And this is going to take us into the new part of the post with Bray Wyatt. 93 is a significant number to Aaron Charles Rodgers, whose name sums to 93 in reduction. And here we're talking about the new king, Charles III, whose name equals 93. If we instead write out King Charles, notice how we get a 53, just like the number that Jimenez wears. Now check this out. This is where the coincidences clearly end. Jimenez played for the college football team Old Dominion, and notice how Old Dominion's nickname is the Monarchs. Almost exactly like how Charles III is the new monarch of the United Kingdom. Now if you measure from the birthday of Jimenez to the birthday of Aaron Rodgers, look at this, you get 13 years and 5 days. The number that Aaron Rodgers and Daniel Jones shares with the new king. So all of this is pretty amazing, but I want to look back again at this 93. Because once again, Charles III equals 93. The number found in Aaron Charles Rodgers and Jimenez. Bray Wyatt's return to the WWE was a numeric riddle. And we know this because when the lights went dark in the arena, signifying Wyatt's return, the wrestler who had just won his first ever pay-per-view main event was named Matt Riddle. That's right, a guy named Riddle was on the screen when this riddle started. Notice how the name Bray equals 62. Bray made his return to the WWE exactly 62 weeks after he was released last year. The Wyatt family also sums to 62 in reduction. The number 93 also sums to 62. And this number 93, as we mentioned, connected to the king. If you measure from the death of Brody Lee, who was the former Wyatt family member named John, to the date of Wyatt's debut, it was 93 weeks exactly. And this man's name, John Huber, sums to 93 in the alphabetic order. Meanwhile, Bray Wyatt, his real last name is Rotunda. And notice how the name Rotunda also has this gematria of 93. 93 is a highly significant occult number. And perhaps this is best evidenced through the Thelemic traditions. Thelema. You'll see here Aleister Crowley, considered to be a founder of this occultic religion or belief system. And the number 93 was so significant that they used to actually greet each other with the number 93. And perhaps this is pointing to worship of the planet Saturn. Saturn summing to 93. Don't forget that the ancient Roman festival named Saturnalia was celebrated with sacrifice. And check out the dates of Saturnalia. December 17th through December 23rd. Those are pretty darn similar to the dates associated with John Huber, who was born 1 day before Saturnalia began and died 3 days before it ended. In the reverse order, the planet Saturn has gematria of 69. Well, if you measure from the anniversary of Bray Wyatt's release to his return, it was 69 days. In fact, the event he returned at was called Extreme Rules, which equals 69. The 69th prime number is 347. And during Wyatt's return, a song played over the arena. called He's Got the Whole World in His Hands. And notice how this song has ordinal gematria of 347, that 69th prime number, all connecting back to Saturn. But there's even more here. If you look at the date that Bray Wyatt was released back in 21, it was July 31st. And that date can be written 31/7/21. Well, the number 317 is the prime number value of the planet Saturn. And in reduction, Saturn also equals 21. So how interesting that Bray Wyatt was released on 31/7 of the year 21. In Latin or Jewish gematria, Saturn equals 511. And these are the same three digits found in the last name of Wyatt. Wyatt, 1501. In astrology, there's something very significant called a Saturn return. Saturn takes 10,759 days to orbit the sun. This means that Bray Wyatt had his Saturn return on the November 5th, or the 5th of November, which can be written 5/11, connecting to the gematria of Saturn. Now, if you measure from his Saturn return to his WWE return, notice how you get 71 months and 3 days. And the number 713 is the ancient Hebrew value for Saturn. And think about how this connects to the Hebrew language, because Saturn is equivalent to the ancient Hebrew deity El, the father of the heavens. The phrase Saturn return sums to 189 and 135. Aaron Rodgers equals 135 and 189. And once again, Bray Wyatt sums to 135. Last year, I did a post on the shooting death of a player in the NFL that occurred on Aaron Rodgers' Saturn return. That player was named David McMillan. This post is also linked below in the description. And notice how David McMillan has matching gematria with Saturn return and Aaron Rodgers' Saturn return. This guy was littered with the number of Saturns, shot dead on Aaron Rodgers' Saturn return. And I thought this might be coincidence, but then last year, when Aaron Rodgers was dating Shailene Woodley, there was a shooting at a casino in Green Bay on Shailene Woodley's Saturn return. And that post is also going to be linked in my blog here. Just a quick look, actually. Yeah, it was May of last year. I documented how there was a shooting at a Green Bay casino on Shailene Woodley's Saturn return, and she's all synced up with Saturn. It's pretty wild. Speaking of the number 189, Jonathan Huber, this man who passed away, a former member of the Wyatt family. Notice how his gematria, also 1089. How about this? Another 135 for Saturn return. And I believe even with capital letters, Jonathan Huber equals 189. All pointing to the Saturn return. All right, so I think that's pretty much it for this video. Again, check the description for more links to previous videos and posts that talk about this same riddle, these same numbers all playing out once again. For those of you looking for a follow-up on the website, I will be going live soon to talk about, you know, some of the changes and some of the intent with what's all going on there. I did want to do a decode before I get into that, just to kind of get back in the swing of things. But there's a lot in store for the website that I want to go over and explain the changes I made and some of the questions I've been getting. So for anyone interested about that, stay tuned. again, within the next day or two, I'll talk more at length about that. All right, everyone. Peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya.